Today, we delve into the haunting experiences of a fire lookout in Wyoming. Introduction. Today, we will talk about an extraordinary experience in isolation and curiosity. A new beginning. I took this job for the silence, not the money. As a fire lookout in Shoshone National Forest, Wyoming, I found exactly what I sought. My first week was meditative, learning the ropes from my predecessor, Mark. He left everything in perfect order, and after 2 days of training, he descended the trail, leaving me alone in the tower for 3 months. The tower stood atop a mountain, offering a view for miles. Inside, it was a small room, about 4 by 4 meters, with glass on all sides. I had a bed, a table, a gas stove, and a radio. There was no electricity, just a few batteries for the radio and LED lamps. I carried everything I needed, including food and water, up the mountain over several trips. The hike took about 3 hours from my truck at the base. The routine. The first days were about settling in. I woke at dawn, brewed coffee, and scanned the horizon with binoculars every 15 minutes. I checked in with Dave, my coordinator, at 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. It was the perfect isolation, but on the 8th night, everything changed. I was reading late when I noticed movement in the dark forest below. It was almost 3 in the morning. I grabbed my binoculars and saw something moving through the trees in the area marked Moose Creek. It wasn't like an animal. It was a steady, methodical movement. Something large and dark was moving south. I thought it might be a moose or bear, but I didn't think much of it. The pattern emerges. The next night I couldn't sleep. I waited, binoculars in hand, and saw the same movement at exactly 2:53 a.m. It was strange. Animals don't move with such precision. I noted it in my log. The third night confirmed my suspicions. Again, at 2:53 a.m., the same dark shape moved through the trees, disappearing over the ridge in exactly 17 minutes. My curiosity turned cold and analytical. What could it be? Who walks through the forest at night with such punctuality? I prepared better for the 4th night, marking its route on a map. When I spoke to Dave in the morning, I asked about that section of the forest. He said it was just dense woods. No trails or signs of human activity. Thank you for staying with us. So far, we've explored my initial days of isolation, the strange movement I observed, and my growing curiosity. Next, I will share the experiment I conducted to identify this mysterious entity and the chilling discoveries that followed. Don't forget to subscribe and share your own stories with us. The experiment. On the 11th night, I decided to conduct an experiment. I had a signal pistol with flares for emergencies. I waited for 2:53 a.m., and when the movement began, I shot a white flare into the sky. The flare illuminated the area, but when I looked through the binoculars, I saw nothing. Yet the movement continued. I could see branches bending and bushes swaying as if something large and invisible passed through. It moved steadily, just as before. The light faded, and the forest returned to darkness. I was left staring into the blackness, the movement now eerily still. It felt like it was aware of my presence, the unseen presence. I spent the next hours watching the spot where the movement had stopped, but nothing happened. The silence was overwhelming. I had to write in my log, but what could I say? I noted the abnormal movement and the physical impact on the vegetation. I didn't sleep until dawn, scanning the area every few minutes. When daylight came, the forest looked normal. No fallen trees or broken branches, nothing unusual. I checked in with Dave, and as usual, I lied about everything being fine. But I was on edge, knowing I had witnessed something beyond explanation. The nightly vigil. As night fell, I prepared for another sleepless vigil. I turned off all lights, trying to hide my presence, but I was still aware that whatever it was, it knew I was there. At 2 a.m., it began its patrol again, moving along the base of the mountain. It circled, but never approached. I felt like a lab rat being observed. It didn't seem to want to come closer, but it was always present. I was trapped in this glass tower, and it was circling my prison. The search for the trail. On the 14th night, I noticed a change in its pattern. It was no longer circling aimlessly. It was searching for something. I realized it was looking for the trail that led to my tower. By the next day, I was desperate for help. I needed a reason to call for someone to come up. I decided to fake a problem with the water filtration system. I could claim it was broken and needed urgent repair. I waited for the ranger, hoping he would arrive before it found the trail. The ranger's arrival. The day dragged on, my heart racing with anticipation. I was glued to the window, waiting for the ranger to appear. When night fell, I saw the familiar movement again, but now it was more chaotic. It was actively searching for the trail. I felt a mix of dread and urgency. I couldn't let it find me. That night, I barely slept, knowing the ranger was coming the next day. The final countdown, the day of the ranger's arrival, was tense. I stood by the window, watching the trail. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. As the hours passed, I felt the weight of my situation. I had to keep my composure, but as night fell, the thing began its ascent up the trail. I could see the bushes moving, and I knew it was getting closer. I sat in my chair, frozen with fear, listening for any sound. The confrontation. At 1:17 a.m., I heard it. The sound of something climbing the metal stairs to the observation deck. It was slow and heavy. I gripped my axe tightly, waiting for the confrontation. Then silence. It was right outside the door. I felt the pressure of the moment. It was there, just beyond the barrier. I braced myself, unsure of what would happen next. The eye. Suddenly, I saw a shadow move across the glass. Then a round spot appeared, as if someone had wiped away condensation. It was an eye, huge and black, staring in. It wasn't looking at me, but at the radio behind me. I felt a chill. It wasn't interested in me. It was focused on the radio. I realized then that my shelter was not built to protect me from it, but from something else. The collapse. The vibrations began, and the tower started to resonate. I knew it was trying to break in another way. I had to make a choice, stay and face an inevitable end, or confront the unknown. I chose the latter. I threw open the door and stepped onto the observation deck, but it was empty. The pressure was intense, like stepping into a storm. I felt its presence everywhere. I ran for the stairs, descending as fast as I could, feeling the vibrations grow stronger. The escape. When I reached the ground, I ran. I didn't look back. I fled down the trail, feeling the presence fade behind me. I collapsed in the underbrush, exhausted, and waited for dawn. When the sun rose, I hobbled to my truck and drove away, never looking back. Aftermath. 6 months later, I found myself in a different state, working a mundane job, trying to forget. But one evening, I stumbled upon a press release about the tower's decommissioning due to rapid structural degradation. It mentioned localized seismic anomalies. The last line caught my attention. All radio transmissions were banned within a 20-mile radius for national security reasons. I smirked, but deep down, I knew the truth was far stranger than any official explanation.